Welcome to News Mongolia, where we bring you the latest stories and updates from across the nation and beyond. I am Batsir Namshir. On the News Mongolia today, summer safety alert, preventing drowning during river picnics. June monthly meeting of AmCham Mongolia. Post-election Mongolia, what's next? Mongolian expatriates prepare to cast votes in the parliamentary election. For the news, stay tuned. With summer holidays start, many families are planning picnics around the scenic Tol, Hirling and Terlj rivers. The capital city emergency agency has issued an important warning to ensure everyone's safety during these outings. Officials emphasize the need to be vigilant about water safety, particularly to prevent drowning incidents. Parents and guardians are urged to constantly watch their children and never leave them unattended near the water. Here are some crucial tips to keep in mind. Set up picnic areas at a safe distance from river banks. Ensure children wear life jackets if they are near the water. Educate children about the potential dangers of rivers. By following these precautionary steps, we can all help prevent accidents and enjoy a safe and happy summer. Stay alert and take care of each other. This message has been brought to you by the Capital City Emergency Agency. The American Chamber of Commerce in Mongolia recently held its June monthly meeting focusing on the theme Post-Election Mongolia, What is Next? The panel featured distinguished experts, including independent economist Inch Bayer, economist Hashchulung from the National University of Mongolia, and Lakshmi, director of the Economic Policy and Competitiveness Research Center.
The discussion centered around Mongolia's economic outlook in the wake of the recent elections. A significant point of concern raised was the government's budget expenditure, which stands at 27.4 trillion MNT for 2024 and is projected to increase to 31 trillion MNT in 2025. The panelists highlighted that a primary mistake often made during election years is the expansion of budget expenditure, which could lead to adverse outcomes for the country's economic stability. Economists emphasize the need for prudent fiscal management to avoid potential economic pitfalls.
If economic growth falls short of expectations, what measures should be taken? Additionally, I fear there may be unfavorable impacts on foreign currency rates and inflation. The new government and parliament should prioritize aligning budget and development policies with Mongolia's current steps. The projected figures are relatively lower compared to some previous years, yet they remain high. This raises concerns about whether Mongolia can achieve the necessary income and revenue. Was it essential to adopt such a large budget bill for the coming year? Additionally, there are emerging issues like electricity cuts and heating problems during winter. Shouldn't we prioritize addressing these first? Will the new recovery policy continue? Will the new government adopt a new policy, or will it enrich the current one? More importantly, what will happen with the agreements with foreign investors? The new government's refusal to uphold the previous government's agreements creates significant challenges. We need some sustainability in our policies.
The meeting concluded with a call for careful consideration of economic policies to ensure a balanced and prosperous future for Mongolia.
In accordance with Resolution Number 1 of 2024, issued by the Central Commission for Managing and Organizing the Polling of Citizens residing abroad, 47 branch commissions have been established at Mongolian diplomatic missions worldwide.
Operating under diplomatic missions, these branch commissions are responsible for organizing polling for Mongolian expatriates, as outlined in the law on the election of the Parliament of Mongolia. Votes for citizens residing abroad will contribute to the selection of 48 members through closed-list proportional representation at the national level. Voting for citizens living abroad will take place at designated polling stations within diplomatic missions from June 20th to June 23rd between 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. local time. To participate in the electoral process, expatriate voters must visit their nearest diplomatic mission in person or register online at election.portugal.gov.mn/request by June 15th. Registration is required to ensure inclusion in the eligible voter list. Polling stations for Mongolian expatriates include Mongolian embassies, general consulates, and consulate offices.
Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. You're watching News Mongolia. Now let's take a look at international news from our partner agencies. South Korea will expand development aid to Africa and pursue deeper cooperation with the region of 1.3 billion people on critical minerals and technology, President Yoon Suk-yeol said Tuesday as he hosted dozens of African leaders in the inaugural Korea-Africa Summit.
In a speech, Yoon urged African countries to take firmer steps in an international pressure campaign against North Korea. The North recently accelerated its test of nuclear-capable weapon systems and flew hundreds of balloons to drop tons of trash and manure on South Korea as relations between the world-divided Koreas worsen.
한국은 2024
With South Korea being a non-permanent member of UN Security Council in 2024 and 2025, we will strengthen cooperation with Africa even further on the international stage. Also, the participants have reaffirmed, in order to achieve denuclearization in the Korean Peninsula, members of the international community have to diligently implement the UN Security Council resolution. In order to respond to climate change, participating leaders and members have agreed to form a climate finance structure that reflects Africa's need to respond to the threat. Also, South Korea has decided to expand projects such as K-Rice Belt that can help strengthen Africa's food self-sufficiency.
또한 한국은
Africa's 54 states are an important bloc at the United Nations and hold 3 rotating seats on the Security Council. Representatives from 48 African nations, including 25 heads of state, are attending South Korea's 2-day summit, where talks are expected to focus on trade and investment.
We are glad to see South Korea's decision to support development assistance with up to $10 billion by 2030, twice the previous amount, and also to reserve $14 million for productive investment in important sectors such as commerce, new technologies, energy, food, security, human capital, and infrastructure.
Trade with African nations currently accounts for less than 2% of South Korea's total imports and exports. Mauritania President Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, the current chairperson of the African Union, a new G20 member, expressed confidence in a durable partnership ahead.
The Israeli military said on Tuesday its soldiers were conducting targeted operations in Rafah and the southern Gaza Strip. An Israeli Defense Forces statement said it had discovered significant tunnels as well as weapons used by militants in the area.
It added its troops had destroyed numerous sites used by Hamas in central Gaza as the offensive goes on. The IDF also released a video claiming to show soldiers patrolling inside the territory. Israel has been expanding its operations into Rafah amid heightened pressure to secure a ceasefire to end the 8-month war. The move has largely cut off the flow of food, medicine, and other supplies to Palestinians facing widespread hunger. It also comes as the deaths of 4 more Israeli hostages still held by militants were confirmed on Monday. Around 80 hostages captured on October 7th in the attack which ignited the war are believed to still be alive in Gaza, alongside the remains of 43 others. Israeli bombardments and ground operations have killed more than 36,000 Palestinians, according to the Health Ministry, which does not distinguish between combatants and civilians.
China's lunar spacecraft displayed the country's red and gold flag on the far side of the moon for the first time. Early Tuesday, part of the spacecraft blasted off with rocks and soil samples to bring back to Earth.
This mission was celebrated in China, which aims to put a person on the moon before the end of this decade. The Chang'e 6 probe, launched last month, landed on the far side of the moon on Sunday. Its ascender took off at 7:38 a.m. Beijing time on Tuesday, entering orbit around the moon after a 6-minute engine burn, according to the China National Space Administration. The spacecraft successfully passed a high-temperature test on the lunar surface and collected samples using drilling and surface methods. These samples were stored in a container inside the probe's ascender. This container will be transferred to a re-entry capsule expected to return to Earth around June 25th, landing in China's Inner Mongolia region. The small flag, made of special materials, was displayed on a retractable arm from the lunar lander rather than being placed on the lunar soil as shown in an animation released by the agency. Missions to the moon's far side are challenging because it doesn't face the Earth, requiring relay satellite for communication. The terrain is also more rugged, with fewer flat areas to land. The probe landed in the South Pole Aitken Basin, an ancient impact crater 13 kilometers deep and 2,500 kilometers in diameter. This site may provide early information about the moon, as the impact might have ejected materials from deep below the surface. This is the 6th mission in the Chang'e Moon Exploration Program, named after a Chinese moon goddess. It is the 2nd mission designed to bring back samples, following the Chang'e 5, which collected samples from the near side of the moon in 2020. China's moon program is part of a growing space rivalry with the US and other countries, including Japan and India. China has its own space station in orbit and regularly sends crews there. China aims to land a person on the moon before 2030, potentially making it the 2nd nation to do so after the United States. America plans to land astronauts on the moon again by 2026, the first time in over 50 years.
Now let's take a look at global current affairs.
US President Joe Biden will make his first state visit to France this week, following his attendance at the D-Day 80th anniversary commemorations in Normandy. France will host Biden and his wife Jill on June 8. During the visit, President Emmanuel Macron and Biden will discuss the need for unwavering, long-term support for Ukraine. This conversation comes at a crucial time, as war has returned to Europe 80 years after the D-Day landings, which led to the liberation of France and the continent from Nazi Germany's occupation, according to Macron's office. The visit underscores the continued alliance and cooperation between the US and France in addressing global security challenges.
Well, that's all for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Goodbye.